Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, a Raiders 53-man roster projection after the Silver and Black's first preseason game up against the Seattle Seahawks. I'll be 100% transparent. I thought about doing a show around some guys on the hot seat, but I was like, yeah, you know what? I want to look at this as a positive, and let's talk about the players that are going to make the roster instead of guys that might not end up making the team. But at the end of the day, anytime the Raiders have a game, have joint practice, training camp, I like to do these 53-mans. That way it lets the nation know what I'm thinking of who Pete Carroll and John Spytek could end up keeping on this roster. I'm also a man that loves a deal. So let's make a deal. Not only do we give away a jersey on our Raiders-Seahawks game, I want to be able to give away a Raiders jersey during our 49ers game. I'm looking right now. We're about 950 subs away from 198,000. If we get to 198,000 subs by the time the Raiders and the 49ers end up playing, I'm going to give away another jersey during that preseason game. We had over 100,000 Raider fans show up yesterday. I know y'all can do it. Pull up, hit that sub button, and who knows? Maybe you'll win the jersey. So the way that I'm going to go through this Raiders 53-man is I'm going to show you the depth chart for each position, and then the number that you will see next to the player's name is me literally counting it out, the 53 players on the roster. So Geno Smith, Aidan O'Connell, and Cam Miller are the three quarterbacks that are on the silver and black, and it's probably not going to surprise anybody that these are going to be the three quarterbacks that I end up keeping. Now, Aidan O'Connell, Cam Miller, that to me looks like a real battle. I would still keep AOC at quarterback too, just because I want Miller to develop a little bit more. But at the end of the day, could the Raiders keep two QBs? And that's a whole nother can of worms. That might be a whole nother conversation. But if Aidan keeps playing the way that he did, and if Cam keeps playing the way that he did, it might be a conversation that I might entertain a little bit more. Let's go to the running back position here. In the Raiders, they listed Raheem Mostert, Zamir White, Chris Collier as the RB2. I kind of just put it from a graphic standpoint as Zamir up there at RB3. But Sincere McCormick, Dylan Lowby, these guys were kind of buried a little bit on that depth chart as well. We know that Jeanty is going to end up being that main back. And I've done this show already so many different times this offseason. And the running backs that I've kept hasn't been easy. But you know what? We got to be able to make a decision because Pete's going to have to make a decision. John Spytek's going to have to make a decision. So let's help him out a little bit. If you could keep only one running back from these three names right here, type CC for Chris Collier, type DL for Dylan Lowby, type SM for Sincere McCormick, who are you keeping? My answer after this YouTube ad break. This was really, really difficult for me, and I don't know exactly where the Raiders are leaning on who they're going to keep at the running back position. I think it's going to be Jeanty. I think it's going to be Raheem Mostert. I think they're also going to keep Zamir White, and I say that because of the amount of snaps that he played yesterday, and this might surprise some people, but I'm going to go with Chris Collier over Sincere McCormick, and I'm going to go with Chris Collier over Dylan Lowby. I'm not saying that because Collier had 9 carries, 42 yards. He led the team yesterday. Dylan Lowby, I thought, actually out of all the running backs in that first preseason game, between McCormick, Collier, and Lowby, I thought that Lowby honestly played the best. But special teams value, Collier has it. Lowby also provides you some of that. I think there's just also the depth chart where they listed him. The fact that they listed Collier above Dylan, and because Collier is somebody that is fighting for always, that roster spot, obviously Dylan is as well. I just think that there is more upside to Collier because he's just a little bit wigglier. It's a weird word to put out there, but he's just got a little bit more juice than Dylan, and Dylan has some of those fumble issues. Though both players played very well, this is kind of like the Tyreek McAllister. We'll end up seeing what ends up happening here from that running back spot. Let's go now to the wide receiver room here, and Jakobi, Tre Tucker, Dante Thornton, Jack Bech. These are the guys that are absolutely positively locks to make it, but does a Philip Dorsett make the team? Does a Colin Johnson make the team? Because if you watch that Raiders preseason game, Philip Dorsett, Colin Johnson, Justin Shorter, quite frankly, there was a lot of names that were listed above Tommy Mellott, who was drafted in the 6th round. And typically, I've been keeping 5 wide receivers. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep 6 here. And some of you might look, I am going to keep Alex Bachman. He, to me, is almost a lock to make this roster. The Raiders love what he offers from a slot perspective, and he was targeted very heavily yesterday, got a lot of snaps. Even though I'm going to keep Tommy Mellott, This is more of a what I would do, and the reason why I'm saying it is if the Raiders draft him a lot where they did, and obviously they saw something special in him, but they knew it was going to be a project. Like, I can't imagine the Raiders drafted Tommy Mellott thinking that he was going to be a player that never played wide receiver in college, is now going to be able to be a wide receiver in the NFL. Like, to me, it's a developmental piece. It's a project player. And I'm hoping that even though, I'll be real, I think if you ask the Raiders right now, is he in the top 53 players on their team? They would tell you no. I actually don't even think he's probably in the top 60. He might not even be in the top 70 if I'm being 100% transparent with you. And he did not look good in that preseason game. He was one of my biggest losers. But I do think that the Raiders know that they have a project player, and they want to be able to take their time. They want to be able to develop him. So for that reason, I did end up keeping him on this roster, but I don't anticipate seeing Tommy Mellott at all this upcoming season. Let's go to the tight end room here now, where Brock, Michael Mayer, these players are locks to make it. The Silver and Black did recently add Albert O on that team, and I think between Ian Thomas and Albert O, there's going to be a lot of competing going on. Quadir Ishmael, Carter Runyon, both got some runs, both got some receptions yesterday. This was a little bit difficult, but to me, I have been very confident in Ian Thomas, and because I've seen him have a solid training camp, he's had solid Raiders mock game. He had a solid preseason game. I do think that the Raiders want to go with 3 tight ends. Now, if you told me they didn't keep Tommy Mellott, I think Albert O, or even somebody along the lines of a Justin Shorter, Quadir Ishmael, somebody that can play a little bit of a wide receiver tight end hybrid role, could be something to keep in mind. Let's go to the offensive line. Now, typically, I have been keeping 9 offensive linemen in my 53-man roster breakdowns. And yesterday, Kolton Miller, Dylan Parham played the least amount of snaps on the offensive line. I think it's maybe that those are the 2 players that they're the most confident in. After watching the film, after watching the tape, I thought that this Raiders offensive line was going to be a lot better than what they showed yesterday. I am very concerned, but I also wanted to be able to get more players on defense because my concern is heavier on defense than it is offense. So I'm going to only keep 8 offensive linemen. I'm going to keep the 2 rookies that you drafted in the 3rd round, Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers. Let's be honest, both those guys did not play well against Seattle. Alex Kappa had a very limited amount of snaps also, so, he's been battling some stuff. I'm only going to keep 8 offensive linemen, and I have been flirting with the idea of keeping Thayer Munford in some of the past videos that I did, but at the exact same time, I just can't keep Thayer Munford on this roster based on the way that he played yesterday, based on the way he played last season, based on we just need more help on the defensive side of the football. So because of that, I'm going to go with 8 offensive linemen, but I don't love it. And the Raiders, if there's one thing I learned from doing this 53-man video, we need to add several more players from free agency because we don't have enough talent to compete at the level that I was hoping we can compete at. Coming up next here, the Raiders 53-man is going to continue, but this time on the defensive side of the football. Before I get into that, I can't believe these jerseys are still on sale. I wake up every morning and I look, are these jerseys still on sale? And the fact that the answer is yes, it's mind-blowing. Now, I'll be transparent. I am recording this video on Friday, August 8th, and it's going to go out on Saturday for all y'all that are watching. But at the exact same time, I've been doing this show for 7+ years. I can't remember a time that it's been this many Raiders jerseys at the quality of Raiders jerseys, and it's just at the deal that they have right now at chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys. It's mind-blowing to me. And I think another great deal that I don't have a picture of, there's custom jerseys where, you guys always see me rocking these different custom jerseys that I had. I used to do it a lot last season. But if you've ever sat back and you go, man, I would love to get a custom Raiders jersey, they're usually $169. You can get it right now for $135. And maybe that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but in the custom jersey game, that's a Nike branded jersey, that's a great, great deal. Go to chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys. That link's down in the comments. It's in the description of today's show. And you know what? Let's ask this question. If you could get any Raiders jersey, who would it be? And I'm asking this question because if you don't remember, at the very beginning of the show, I gave you a challenge. I gave you a deal. Well, I'm a man that likes to listen to the nation. This is how this show runs. It listens to what you guys have to say. Whatever person gets the most votes, that's the jersey. I'm going to give away. Now, I did think about giving away a 98 Crosby for $198K, though I think that's probably the most common Raiders jersey that's out there right now. Whoever gets the most votes down in the comments, that's the jersey I'm going to end up giving away when the Raiders play the 49ers. But we got to get to 198K subs. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the football here. And yes, I am putting Tonka Hemingway as a defensive end, and I'm putting him as a defensive end only because that's where the Raiders listed them in their first unofficial depth chart. Now, again, if you're counting at home with me, I have only 24 players on offense, so I'm going to be able to keep some extra players on the defensive side of the football. Let's first go to these edge rushers, defensive ends. Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, Tyree Wilson, Charles Snowden. I did not like the way that he played. If I'm being transparent in that Seattle game, I actually thought Andre Carter played well, though PFF might disagree with me on that one. Tonka Hemingway, you drafted him, so you're going to end up keeping him as well. But 5 defensive ends is who's going to make this roster. Now, let's go to the defensive tackle room. And since moving on from Christian Wilkins, this is just a unit that is just not nearly as strong as what it once was. Lucky Fotu's in a boot. Don't know 100% how healthy he is. And this is another part of this Raiders team that I was hoping was going to be a strength. And the Raiders went from having, I thought, one of the better defensive tackle units in the league with Wilkins to now, quite frankly, I think having one of the worst defensive tackle units in the National Football League. And this is an area that the Silver and Black drastically need to improve on. The problem is I don't know exactly where that improvement is going to come from. I'm going to keep Adam Butler. I think Thomas Booker is the second best DT on our roster from what I saw yesterday. Nobody created the interior pressure that he did. And quite frankly, I understand sometimes when people go, oh, Mitch, you can't always talk about PFF grades. You're right. Because whoever did the PFF grades for the Raiders, judging what Thomas Booker did yesterday, don't know ball. So I don't know who did it at PFF. The grade that they gave Thomas Booker doesn't make any sense. Because if you watch the game, he was making an impact. Lucky Fotu, if he's not healthy, that could be another name that we have to replace. But J.J. Pegues, you drafted him in the 6th round. Zach Carter, I thought, played pretty well overall. But 10 guys on the defensive line isn't enough for the talent that we have on this roster. Because, again, we're talking about very, very limited defensive tackle depth here. I am also now realizing I am a complete and utter idiot. I did not put Jonnu Lalu on that list. Jonnu Lalu has to be on that list. So, could you take out the Kai Blue Kelly from the cornerback room? That's me. I was trying to put this one together. I'm literally looking at it. I'm like, who am I missing here? And I'm staring at it. I'm staring at it. Jonnu Lalu is also on this list. That's on me. I should have been able to catch that, and you can blame it on whoever. But that's on me. Jonnu Lalu, he ends up making this list. So let's say Adam Butler's 30, Thomas Booker's 31, Lucky Fotu's 32, J.J. Pegues is 33, Zach Carter 34, 35 is going to be Jonnu Lalu. Cool? He's going to end up making the roster. That's on me, and I feel like a knucklehead. But let's be honest with ourselves here. If you feel like that the Raiders need to add some extra talent onto that defensive line, because we got pushed around a little bit by Seattle, and that was really, really frustrating for me. Jonnu struggled yesterday. He really did. I expected to see more out of him, and I think every single person that rocks with the Silver and Black can agree with this. We need to add more talent to this defensive line. Pete, I'm looking at you. Spytek, I'm looking at you. We need more talent on this Raiders defensive line. And I think we can all agree with it. And if you do, I hope you hit that like button. Let's go to the linebacker room now here for the Silver and Black. And Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, Devin White, Jamal Adams to me is a lock to make this squad. And the Raiders really did move around a lot of different pieces from top to bottom yesterday, and it was kind of a weird unit overall. But to me, I'm going to keep 6 linebackers, and the 6 linebackers that I'm going to end up keeping here for the Silver and Black, I'm going to go with the Landon Roberts, Devin White, Jermaine Pratt. Those are your top 3 guys, though. After what I saw yesterday, I'm really curious to see if Jamal Adams squeaks into that top 3 linebacker rotation, because he was better than Roberts. He was better than White. He was better than Pratt. Quite frankly, I didn't think Roberts played well at all. I didn't think Devin White looked good, and I didn't think Jermaine Pratt looked good, if we're being transparent. Tommy Eichenberg, I am going to keep on this team. And then the Raiders did draft Lindenberg in the 7th round, but I kept Cody Lindenberg on this 53-man because I think it's what the Raiders are going to do, because Amari Gaynor didn't get a lot of snaps. But if you watched that game yesterday, you're probably going, well, our linebackers were terrible in coverage. But also at the same time, I'm not surprised that our linebackers were terrible in coverage because we don't have a single linebacker on our team that's not named, I would say, Jermaine Pratt or honestly Amari Gaynor that I have any confidence in whatsoever. Now, could Adams continue to get more playing time? Could he continue to be somebody that we rely on? I hope so, and I hope that he proves me wrong. I hope Jamal Adams proves me wrong just the same way that Robert Spillane did a few years ago. But this linebacker room is a huge toss-up, and we got a lot of moving pieces around. Let's go to the cornerback room next up here on the Raiders report. And Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, DeCamerion Richardson, these are your top guys. Now, depending on what the Raiders decide to do at the cornerback position, I mean, it is an absolute toss-up. And I didn't know exactly how this defensive backfield is going to end up breaking down. So what I decided to do here is this. I'm going to add the 3 outside corners that the Raiders are the most confident in. Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, DeCamerion Richardson. Those are the 3 outside corners that they're the most confident in. Then in the nickel, do they keep Darnay Holmes? I don't know. I thought Kaya Blue Kelly played pretty solid yesterday, and he was somebody that I was really flirting with the idea of putting him in. I mean, I literally was just telling Chugs take him out because he's probably number 54 now. I think the Raiders will keep John Olalu over Kai Blue. But Greedy Vance is a player that this team does like a lot, and he's somebody that goes out there, he competes as you-know-what off. He's not afraid to go out there and be physical. He's not afraid to go out there and be a tackler, even though he's a little bit of a smaller size. And because the Raiders are using free safeties, strong safeties also in the nickel, I wonder if they're like, you know what? We're going to keep our outside corners, and we're going to keep a few guys in the nickel that we can just rotate. And Darnay Holmes is a coin flip. Greedy Vance is a coin flip. The secondary in general for the Raiders, it's a big old coin flip. Let's now go to the safety room here. And Paul Lamau had an interception. Jeremy Chin was being used in a multitude of different ways. And you're looking right now up on screen. What I'm going to give you guys, and just bear with me, I'm going to end up keeping 4 safeties. And the safeties that I'm going to end up keeping are Jeremy Chin, Isaiah Polamau, Thomas Harper, and I'm going to end up keeping Chris Smith. Now, the one name that you're probably going, well, wait a minute, Lonnie Johnson Jr., what happened to him? Pete Carroll did say the other day at a press conference that Johnson is expected to be back in week 4 or 5. I think that's also Pete Carroll kind of giving you a little bit of a wink-wink, nudge-nudge, hint-hint, that we're going to be placing him on IR. Now, if a player is placed on IR, they do not count against the 53-man roster, but they're out the first 4 weeks. If that player is still out after the first 4 weeks and he's unable to play week 5 when the Raiders play the Indianapolis Colts, I want to say, then he's done for the season. But if I'm the Raiders, I put Lonnie Johnson Jr. on IR. He's out the first 4 weeks. Then you activate him, and then he's back there week 5. Get him back healthy, get him back going again. But because he's going to be somebody I think they put on IR, they're going to keep those 4 safeties. Chris Smith has been filling in for him, and he played more snaps than anybody on defense yesterday. And then to round this bad boy out, Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, and Jacob Bobenmoyer. I apologize again for not putting John Ulalu on the show. I hate the fact that I did that. I'm honestly really kicking myself in the you-know-what. Chugs and I, we spend a lot of time on this, and the fact that I missed that, man, I am really kicking myself in the ass. So if you want to put John Ulalu down in the comments, because that's the guy that I missed. Quite frankly, he's the one that y'all should probably put down there. But I think what I learned from the Raiders yesterday, and it's going to be a video that I end up putting out on the show, and it's going to be end up putting out on the show probably, I don't know, next week sometime. It's going to be the top free agents that the Raiders needed to go out and get, because when I was doing this 53-man, I almost thought of leaving a spot open at defensive tackle, leaving a spot open in the secondary, leaving a spot open on the offensive line, because I think the Raiders need to add another offensive lineman. I think the Raiders need to add another player on the defensive line, and I think the Raiders need to add another player in the secondary, and that's the bare minimum based off of what I saw up against the Seattle Seahawks. Jadeveon Clowney, Justin Simmons would make this defense a lot better. I also want to give a shout out here before I get out of here to our Noti gang, and these are people that always show up down in the comments, always take pride in trying to be one of the very first people in our show. To Raider Jaime, to Seth, to Giovanni, Malachi, and Eddie, I see you. I appreciate you. And if you want to get a future shout out on the show, make sure you're subscribed and make sure you turn on those noties.